Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Rifftrax Live, the MST3K reunion show. As a big Mystery Science Theater 3000 fan, and as someone who's really looking forward to the new reboot, I was really excited when I heard about this reunion special that Rifftrax Live was doing. It's not every day that you have this many members of the original cast and multi-generations of the Mystery Science Theater cast all together, and this special did not disappoint at all. It was absolutely hilarious. I laughed way too hard, way too much, and had an absolutely great time. Even though Rifftrax has been going for a while, and I have listened to some up front, I'm not a huge Rifftrax fan. I've never been to a Rifftrax Live event ever before, but this was so much fun. I actually got to see the movie in theaters, which was about 20 years ago, and that was such an amazing, fun time just to be with all the Mystery Science Theater fans, or Misties, or whatever you want to call this fan base. And it was just like laughing ear to ear the entire time, like just grinning and laughing, having a wonderful time, and riffing, and the whole idea of Mystery Science Theater works so well with other people, although by the sheer nature of the show you end up probably watching it alone now a lot, which I do, especially if you want to watch it like as obsessively as I once did. One's fine, Jim, but maybe not 3 a day. But I think also the thing about this event is this is something the fandom really needed right now. We're starting this whole new chapter. We have this remake coming out. The whole idea of these different factions of groups of people within Mystery Science Theater is something that's kind of dogged the fandom through the whole like who's better, Mike or Joel kind of arguments. I don't really think there's beef between them. I think there's like maybe Kevin Murphy likes hang out more with Mike J. Nelson and Bill Corbett than he hangs out with Joel and Trace and Frank, but they don't hate each other, and I think that's something they've always had to clear up, especially when Rifftrax was starting and you had Cinematic Titanic going at the same time. And now I'm glad they kind of just, even though there was no hatchet to really bury, I think it's good that they symbolically, I guess, buried the hatchet in that they did a special like this, so it's like, oh, they all get along, and we're introducing Jonah Ray, the new host of the new Mystery Science Theater. So it was a good way to put the fandom in a good place and pass the torch and get us all together and get us kind of excited for the new chapter. It's mainly a Rifftrax event, so if you've never done Rifftrax Live like I hadn't, I was a little surprised by that, but then I was like, it is called Rifftrax Live ... Mystery Science Theater 3000 reunion. It's not Mystery Science Theater and, you know, those Rifftrax guys are here too or something. But I think it was good probably for everybody involved because, like, I am a Mystery Science Theater fan and I've enjoyed Rifftrax. I've seen the one with Birdemic. I saw, I think, the first 3 Twilight ones with some friends, and I've seen a few others, but I'm not like a huge Rifftrax person. I'm not saying that as someone like I prefer Joel or something. I actually probably watch just as many Mike episodes as I watch Joel episodes. It depends on my mood maybe, but it was a good way to kind of introduce people who hadn't really watched Rifftrax, who are definitely Mystery Science Theater fans, to come and watch it, as well as check out like Trace and Frank and how they have a touring show called The Mads, which I was unaware of, and Renfest, which is coming out through Mary Jo Pehl and Trace, and I think Frank's involved, and several other people from Mystery Science Theater, as well as the new Mystery Science Theater, which is going to be coming out eventually. It's kind of like the perfect time to do something like this because there's all these different projects. There's probably more content from the creators and people involved in Mystery Science Theater than literally ever before. Bringing out these personalities and what it did for the fandom was a really great positive thing. You know, I've kind of been a fan of Mystery Science Theater for a good 20 years now, and now that we're entering this new chapter, I feel really happy, and I had such an amazing time. It was kind of built up that they're going to do a Riff-a-Palooza, as they called it, at the end with everyone, but before that, what they did is they had the Rifftrax guys would do a short. They did, I might be screwing up the order, and I hope I'm not leaving things out, so I realized I was like, I should have probably taken notes. There's not like a set list that I could find online, or at least right after I saw it. There probably is later. But start off with the Rifftrax guys doing their thing with this car short, which was actually really, really funny, both the short and their riff on it. And it was a really disturbing, weird short. I think Mystery Science Theater and in general riffing works best when the movie itself is funny as well. Somebody can come in and make a joke and make it funnier, and the movie can kind of help you out, and there's kind of an interplay towards it. That short worked very well with it. It's kind of like this car safety thing, and it's about this kid who needs to learn to cross the street better because he almost gets hit by a car, and these cars come to life in a dream. It's very freaky, and make sure he knows how to like look both ways before he crosses the street. And then they had Mary Jo Pehl and Bridget Nelson come out and do one short just by themselves, and it kind of gave you an idea of what the show is going to be like. And they came out and did this one about like kind of an advertisement for kitchens or something, and that was actually quite funny. And then I think they went back with the Rifftrax guys and did Shake Hands with Danger. Anyway, Shake Hands with Danger definitely happened. That was absolutely a hilarious short. That's what I'm talking about when there's that interplay between the thing they're making fun of and their riffing. You get the song Shake Hands with Danger stuck in your head, and they did compare it to like a safety video with like a Sam Elliott spirit. Then, and probably my most favorite, and maybe it was before, I think I'm screwing up this order, was Frank Conniff and Trace Beaulieu did their thing to a short about like, what's the deal with Judy or Janice or something? Jan? I don't know. It was like a dating thing, but that was like the most hilarious part for me. I love Trace. He's someone who I've always really liked, Trace Beaulieu. I probably will always really like him. I have a hard time picking my favorite of the Mystery Science Theater cast, but he's someone who just hearing him riff on something is just amazing enough. I watched that riffing he did on The Heat just because I heard he was there. Him and Frank were so funny. I absolutely looked to see if they were playing a show as the Mads in New York City or Brooklyn or somewhere I could travel to, and they are not, or at least as of when I made this video. But if they are, I definitely want to go because I was just like, did not stop laughing the entire time. It was really, really funny. It didn't look like they were playing a lot of shows, and that just pisses me off a little bit because they're so good at it. You have all these expert people who like invented riffing and how we all do it today and all these different formats, and like they blew everybody away. That was the funniest part of the whole thing. Then you had the thing that was passing of the torch, which was Jonah and Joel, and that was interesting because Jonah was really funny. I think it showed more of Jonah. I already knew Jonah was funny, and I felt good because I heard him on like the podcast The Canon talking about the movie Ed Wood. I haven't really felt any sort of negativity about this new remake. You get a little nervous or something like that because we haven't actually seen an episode yet, but seeing Jonah riff made me feel so much better and made me even more excited. The only kind of cutesy thing about that was that Jonah kind of messed up, and then Joel said, "It's Rifftrax live, everybody." They moved past it. I could tell Jonah was a little mortified by the whole thing. I think they did such a good job, and frankly, you know, it's Jonah's first real time riffing in front of everybody. I'm sure he's absolutely nervous, and just because he flubbed one line, Mystery Science Theater usually isn't live. So, and a little surprising because he is a comedian, but it is like all the attention's on him. But I still think he did an amazing job. Everyone kind of shined throughout. I don't think there's anyone who was like they really phoned it in or something, but I think he really was one of the standouts. And particularly because we weren't familiar with his riffing personality would be, I knew him as a comedian, but not as someone who could riff on movies, and he did an excellent job. After that, they showed things of Rifftrax and the best ofs and things. It was also their 10-year anniversary thing as well. And then they had the Riffapalooza, and they did 2 shorts, one of which was George Reeves' Superman short about war bonds, and then there was one about grass. Is grass corn or something? It was very weird, but they were both really funny. I was surprised, like when the show was over, I didn't see the 7:30. I actually saw the 8 o'clock show because the 7:30 sold out by the time I had heard about it. I was surprised how long it went because this special didn't feel 2.5 hours, I believe. It felt like 90 minutes. They spread out the personalities in such a way, and it was so funny. It was kind of worth it. If you are a Mystery Science Theater fan, this is a must-see. I don't know if the remake's going to be good yet. I mean, in all fairness, I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But I do know this is very good, and if you haven't seen it and you didn't get to, they are doing it again on July 12th, 2016. So if you can get tickets to that, do that so you can see it. I guess they sell DVDs of these things later. I don't know what that's going to be like. I really loved coming to this event and kind of celebrating my Mystery Science Theater 3000 fandom and being with other fans of the show because I really haven't. It was a good way to kind of reintroduce you into that world if all you've been doing, like me, is watching old episodes for the past since 2099. Wow. And sometimes venturing into following everyone on Twitter and seeing the various things they're doing. But I was mainly just watching Mystery Science Theater, and this got me excited for everything about it. I'm definitely probably going to see the Mads when they come to New York. I'm considering actually doing the Rifftrax Mothra thing, although I kind of want to see Mothra because it sounds like it's a good prince. Part of me is like, can I just see Mothra like unriffed and then see it later? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. It got me excited for everything involved in the fandom, and maybe I'm just being a stupid fanboy right now, but it introduced it in such a great way, and I'm so excited for the remake, and I'm so excited to get back into it and back into it in a modern day setting is very exciting for me. And I like that they put everything on a great path. And it feels like any kind of problems we had before or any problems we thought were going on are gone now because they were never there. And I think this was a great thing, but also it was fucking hilarious. It was so funny. It was such a funny special. It kind of reminded me how excellent they all are. That's the thing about Mystery Science Theater. I don't think people realize how many incredibly funny people worked on it and how smart and how great they were. And I thought they really brought it. But this kind of shows the cream of the crop in terms of riffing. They all had something to prove, and to prove to us, like someone like me who's not as familiar with Rifftrax, what Rifftrax was about, what the Mads are about, what Jonah was about. Could Joel still do it? And everyone did a great job. I guess the only thing I didn't like is that whoever was the director of the stream that was going on, like Joel and Jonah did a switch at the podiums and they didn't cut to it. They just kept showing the movie. I wish they had actually done that. I guess the bigger thing is I actually kind of believe they didn't act like it was going to happen, that they were going to announce where the new Mystery Science Theater was going to be. And unfortunately, that did not happen during this event, which I thought was a little disappointing, but I had such a great time. And I don't know if that really would have worked because this is kind of mainly about Rifftrax. As much as it's an advertisement for everything and doing things for the fandom as a whole, and this thing that all these people came from, I think it's mainly about Rifftrax and maybe not the greatest place. Maybe Mystery Science Theater doesn't have a confirmed thing. Maybe they don't want to say yet until a certain date, or maybe whatever. I don't know. I could guess a million things. Maybe aliens are involved. I hope in a good way though. But I really had a great time at this event, and if you were a fan of Rifftrax, or especially Mystery Science Theater, I think this is a great way to reintroduce you into the fandom, and it did exactly what it needed to do as a special. And really, I haven't laughed this hard in the theater. I probably laughed too hard, so if you sat behind me or near me and I was annoying, I felt like maybe I was, but nobody said anything to me, I apologize to you. But I was really having a really great time. It was such a good time for Mystery Science Theater and to be a fan of Mystery Science Theater and to be reintroduced to all of that, and that was just simply wonderful. And if you want that kind of a time for Mystery Science Theater, I highly recommend going to the reunion show. And if you were there, I think we all had a really wonderful, amazing, really funny time that reminded me how awesome this show was and riffing itself can be. So if you saw Rifftrax Live, the MST3K reunion show, and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.